أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. With the grace of Almighty Allah, we have covered the basics of Murakkab Tawsifi, Jumla Ismiya, and following that Murakkab Jari. Murakkab Jari is a combination of Harf Jar and Ism Majroor. So we have Harf Jar, and then we have ism following that, which is always in state of jar. So whenever we have harf jar, we will have ism majroor, and that's our slogan: harf jar ism majroor, harf jar ism majroor. And this jar and majroor combine to make Murakkab Jari. Murakkab Jari. So that's our prepositional phrase. That's the English equivalent. Prepositional phrase. Here I have some examples from Quran of Murakkab Jari, because our focus is Quran and it's important to bring some examples from Quran. In antum illa fi dalalin kabirin, that is Surah Mulk, ayah number 9, part of ayah number 9. In antum illa fi dalalin kabirin, you are not except in gross error. So one of the translations is you are merely in gross error, a major mistake. So here we have harf jar, which is fi, translated as in here, and dalalin is our ism majroor. So whenever we have harf jar, we will have ism majroor. And what is kabirin here then? This is our majroor following jar. And what is kabirin? Let's analyze that. Fi dalalin kabirin, fi dalalin kabirin. Fatha here, fi dalalin kabirin. So fi is our harf jar, harf jar, and our ism majroor is dalalin. So harf jar is our agent, which is amil, and it is acting on the next noun, which is dalalin. In this case, dalalun, dalalin. So this is then another term is called ma'mul. Amil is the one who acts, and ma'mul is the one on which action takes place. So in this example here, the ma'mul is dalalin, not kabirin. The action of fi is taking place on dalal, not kabir. So what is this then? If we look at it carefully, this is mawsuf and this is the sifa. So harf jar is here before this mawsuf, so it is acting on this mawsuf in this construction and forcing this to take the state of jar. So whenever we have harf jar, ism following that will be majroor. And why is kabir majroor? Kabir is because kabir is a sifa of dalal, so sifa has to follow mawsuf in all four aspects of a noun. So here mawsuf is in jar, kabir will be in jar. Mawsuf is singular, kabir is singular. It's muzakkar, that is muzakkar. This is indefinite, that is indefinite. So this mawsuf and sifa then combine to make Murakkab Tawsifi which is our, in other words, combination. In combination it is ism majroor from the analysis point of view. So ism majroor and harf jar, this is harf jar. So harf jar and ism majroor are now going to combine to make murakkab jari. Murakkab jari. So in a way, this whole construction in our analysis is kind of ism majroor, but literally speaking, ism majroor here is mawsoof, which is dalal. Fi does not have any effect on kabir. Kabir is just following mawsoof in all four aspects of that mawsoof. So that is our whole of that is our murakkab jari, and in this example it makes a component of this ayah, which we cannot go into at this stage. Inshallah, one day we will analyze the ayah fully. So in antum illa fi dalalin kabirin, Surah Mulk. Our next ayah is wa innaka la ala khuluqin azimin. Khuluqin azimin. So that's Surah Qalam, ayah number 4 of Surah Qalam. You are of the highest noble character. That's one of the translations. And as we said last time, wa innahu laqasamullahu ta'lamuna azim. So that lam here, which takes fatha, yes, it is particle of emphasis, just like inna. So actually this is ala, like that, ala. And then we have khuluqin azimin. Khuluqin azimin. So lam has been added here. It doesn't have any effect on i'rab. So lam will be added, just acting like inna, giving double emphasis here. La ala khuluqin azimin. So here we have our harf jar, ala, on or upon, the meaning of that. And then khuluqin azimin is murakkab tawsifi, and effect of ala is on khuluq, not on azim. Azim is just following khuluq. This is mawsoof, that is sifa. Mawsoof and sifa combine to make murakkab tawsifi, which then becomes ism majroor. Ala is our harf jar, just like in the previous example, and then jar and majroor combine to make murakkab jari here. Right, hatta ada kal urjunil kadeem. It is Surah Yasin, and in that the full ayah is wal kamaru qaddarnahu manazila hatta ada kal urjunil kadeem. As for the moon, we have designed phases for it till it again becomes like an old dried curved date stalk. So that's one of the translations. Hatta is kind of end point here, but hatta is followed by verb here rather than noun. So we'll leave that. We're not going to address that today. Harf jar here is kaf zabar ka. That is harf jar here. Kaf zabar ka is one of the, which means like ka. Ka asfim ma'kul, again ka is harf jar in that ayah. So that we have kaf, and then al urjun al-urjun. And because of kaf has a kind of combined, in combination it will be written like this. This hamza of al has merged here with kaf. So kal urjuni. So this is the definite construction, urjunil kadimi. So again mawsuf and sifa, and in this example mawsuf is definite, sifa is definite. Mawsuf is in jar because of harf jar, which is ka, like, meaning of like. So this is definite, this is definite. So mawsuf, sifa, definite, singular, okay, in jar, and it's muzakkar. So similarly, just like that here in these two examples, harf jar, ism majroor, then this is mawsuf, sifa combine to become then finally ism majroor, and harf jar and ism majroor combine to make murakkab jari in this example. Right, our last example here is وَآيَّتَهُمْ أَنَّا حَمَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ فِي الْفُلْكِ الْمَشْحُونِ. Again is Surah Yasin, ayah number 41. Another sign for them is how we carried their race or progeny through the flood. There is nothing here to suggest through the flood, but this suggests fulfil al-mashhun, that there was flooding in the Laden Ark and similar vessels. That's one of the translations. So the point here is that we have got again harf jar here, and al-fulk is majroor, and then its sifa is following it and is definite and is in state of jar as well. So mawsuf and sifa combine to become then ism majroor, and harf jar and this murakkab tawsifi, which is our ism majroor, combine to make murakkab jari. So these four simple examples, there's nothing really complicated here. So what we have to move on. So and inshallah we are going to do our Bismillah today as well, towards the end of it. So we started with murakkab tawsifi, we then went to jumla ismiya, and then we looked at murakkab jari, and we looked at a specific example, and our example which we have been using up till now, which has helped us quite a lot, is we started with, for example, we said a good boy, a good boy. We translated that as waladun, so indefinite construction, waladun hasanun, a good boy. Then we said the good boy, and the good boy we translated al-waladul hasanu. Indefinite, definite. And then we wanted to say the boy is good, making a jumla sentence. The boy is good, and our jumla was al-waladu hasanun. So this has now become our mubtada and khabar. Here this was murakkab tawsifi, mawsuf, sifa. And here this is become mubtada and this has become khabar, which is giving the meaning of is between them here. So we said from going from definite to indefinite, that kind of gives us is MR here at that particular point. So that was our jumla. And then we said the boy is in the mosque. The boy is in the mosque. And our translation was al-waladu fil masjidi. So we brought this murakkab jari here, which replaced the khabar and it became khabar, as you remember, fil masjidi. So we can also say al-waladu fil bayti, the boy is in the house. Al-waladu fis sayyarati, the boy is in the car, etc. So the boy is in the mosque. We have done up till now. Now we want to say the boy's book. We're going to move on, and now we want to say the boy's book. The book of the boy, we can say the book of the boy. Better way of saying in English is boy's book with apostrophe. So boy's book. And how we are going to say that in Arabic? The boy's book, the book of the boy. We have our vocabulary here again. It's not difficult. We have book, kitabun, kitab, and we have boy, because here it's definite, so we can say al kitabu, and we have al waladu. That's our vocabulary. Al kitabu, al waladu. So there is clearly a link between these two nouns. We've got these two nouns, and there is a link in between these two nouns, which is that of possession. So one of them is possessor. The possessor here is the boy. Al-waladu is possessor. P-O-S-S. Okay, possessor. And we can call this possessed or possessee. Possessed or possessee. We can say that. So there is a link between these two, and the link is that of ownership. We can call this owner, and this is something which is owned. Owner and owned. And that's the kind of link which we have between these two nouns. So what we are doing is we are adding one noun to another noun, or we can say attributing one noun to another noun, because this kind of link between these two nouns is not always that of ownership. We will see that later, but most of the time there will be concept of ownership. So one noun is owned by another noun. So what we are really doing is that we are adding one noun to another noun, and that addition, we'll call that addition, the action of adding. Addition in Arabic is called idafa. Idafa. So from idafa then we can have two more terms. One is mudaf, and the other is mudaf ilayh. So from this addition, which is idafa, we have mudaf and mudaf ilayh. And mudaf is what is owned, or what is possessed or possessee. So this is something which is owned, and mudaf ilayh is the owner This is possessor, this is possessee. So when we say the book of the boy, then the book is being added to the noun boy, and there is connection or link of possession or ownership between these two nouns. So how we then have this construction? The construction clearly will be mudaf and mudaf ilayh will combine to make murakkab adafi. Murakkab, that becomes murakkab, compilation, idafi. So how do we construct murakkab idafi in Arabic? So our topic is murakkab idafi. Today's topic, murakkab idafi. Let's have a look at it. Murakkab idafi. So that's our new construction. So we had murakkab tawsifi, murakkab jari, and today we have murakkab idafi, which is a compilation of mudaf and mudaf ilayh put together. So what we have to really do here is to focus on a few points which are really important. Our vocabulary is not a problem. We have kitab and we have walad. Okay, so how are we going to put these together in Arabic to give that concept of murakkab adafi or possessive phrase? We can say this possessive phrase in English. Possessive phrase. So we want to make possessive phrase from these two nouns, and we will have to put them together in a special construction. So there are two rules which govern mudaf. Basically this is kitabun and this is waladun. If we say indefinite, if we say definite, then it will be al kitabu, that will be al waladu. Now what happens that mudaf has got two important qualities, characters or attributes, and one of them is that mudaf never takes tanween. That's right here, this way. So mudaf never takes tanween. That's the first rule, first principle of a noun being mudaf. Mudaf will never have tanween. And the second rule is that mudaf is, let's write down mudaf here, mudaf will never take al of definiteness. Never takes al of definiteness. So this kitab, it could be kitabu, kitaba or kitabi, but in this construction it cannot be kitabun, kitaban, kitabin or al kitabu, al kitaba, al kitabi. That's what this means. And there is only one rule which governs mudaf ilayh, and mudaf ilayh is always in state of jar. Mudaf ilayh always in state of that's the only condition for mudaf ilayh, always in state of jar. So we have murakkab idafi here, which is mudaf and mudaf ilayh, mudaf, and this is mudaf ilayh. So kitab is mudaf, walad is mudaf ilayh. Mudaf is not going to take the mean and it is not going to take al either. And walad, which is mudaf ilayh, will always be in state of jar. So these are the important principles which govern the rule of mudaf and mudaf ilayh being together put in a possessive phrase. So let's go back to our construction here. So we said mudaf is not going to take tanween, so that will remain kitab. It will become kitabu. Kitabu, and this will become al-waladi. Al-waladi. Kitabul waladi. The boy's book. The book of the boy. Mudaf, mudaf ilayh. Let's write down again to consolidate it. Mudaf, mudaf ilayh. Mudaf ilayh. So just like English, when we say the book of the boy, the book comes first, and here again mudaf comes first. So kitab al-waladi, kitabul waladi, kitabul waladi, the boy's book or the book of the boy. So looking here, just revising it, kitab is not going to take the mean, and it's not going to take al either, and mudaf ilayh will always be in state of jar. So it can't be al-waladu, al-walada, it will always be al-waladi. So we cannot say kitabul walada or kitabul waladu. The correct way of saying it, kitabul waladi, the boy's, the book of the boy. So simple rules, only have to remember them and keep them in mind. And whenever we see two nouns together and the second of them is in a state of jar, we will have to think of murakkab izafi, and we will look at mudaf. Mudaf will not have tanween and will not have al either, so that will confirm to us that this is murakkab idafi. It is not murakkab tawsifi, for example. So this is definitely murakkab idafi. So how do we address those four states of a noun in murakkab idafi? We know that a noun has got four attributes, four qualities, which is i'rab, definiteness, jins and adad. So one issue we have already addressed here from the i'rab point of view. I'rab, mudaf can take any i'rab depending on its position in the sentence. It could be kitabu, it could be kitaba, it could be kitabi. So it can take any position, any i'rab depending on its position. So any i'rab, there will be any i'rab. And walad, it will always be majroor. So mudaf will take any i'rab depending on its position in the sentence, and mudaf ilayh will always be majroor. So that's one aspect covered. And then the other aspect is wus'a, the definiteness. From the definiteness point of view, if mudaf ilayh is definite, for example in this example, kitabul waladi, the boy is definite here. So if the mudaf ilayh is definite, mudaf will be considered to be definite, because mudaf is not going to take al anyway. And how do we know it's definite or indefinite? And the way to know whether it's definite or indefinite is to look at mudaf ilayh. If mudaf ilayh is definite, mudaf will be definite, and most of the time mudaf ilayh will be used as definite in this construction. Sometimes it's used indefinite. So if mudaf ilayh is indefinite, mudaf will be indefinite, and if mudaf ilayh is definite, mudaf will be considered to be definite. So that our wus'a are covered. And the next one is, for example, jins. So they do not have to tally. Mudaf and mudaf ilayh, they don't have to tally. They may or they may not. It's not like murakkab tasifi that sifa has to follow mawsuf in all four aspects. Kitabul waladi, the boy's book, and it could be kitabul binti, girl's book. Kitabul binti. So here kitab is muzakkar, bint is muannas. So they do not have to tally. Here they tally, here coincidence, here they don't. So they do not have to tally, follow one another in jins. From the other point of view, again they do not have to tally here. We say kitabul waladi, this is singular, this is singular, but boy can own the whole library. So it doesn't have to be, mudaf doesn't have to be singular, for example. So they do not have to tally. So we have covered these four aspects of a noun and how they apply to mudaf and mudaf ilayh in murakkab idafi. As you remember, in one of the videos we looked at types of definite nouns and we counted up to 5. Today we can go up to 6. So types of definite nouns. Definite nouns. So the first one we said was isme alam is always definite. Isme alam, which is proper noun. Then isme zamir is definite. And that's personal pronoun. Personal pronoun. Then we have ism ishara is also definite. That is demonstrative pronoun. Demonstrative pronoun. Then we have ism mawsul, which is a relative pronoun. Ism mawsul, and the English equivalent will be relative pronoun. We are going to study these in detail later on. Pronoun. Okay, ism mawsul. And then we said mu'arraf bil lam. Mu'arraf bil lam, made definite by addition of lam, which is al, part of al. So those are our 5 different categories, and we can add number 6 today, and the 6 will be mudaf ilal ma'rifa, which we just mentioned. Mudaf ilal ma'rifa. So any mudaf which is attributed to definite mudaf ilayh, that mudaf will be considered to be definite. So mudaf ilal ma'rifa. Thus 6 categories, and there is a 7th one, total of 7. We are going to come across the 7th one soon, inshallah. So this is our list of definite nouns. This was just a revision from last time with the addition of mudaf ilal ma'rifa. We didn't do anything new here. Let us look at some more examples of murakkab idafi before we go on to do our Bismillah. So we are going to do our Bismillah today, inshallah. We can say the house of Allah. The house of Allah. That will be Baytullahi. Baytullahi. Mudaf, mudaf ilayh. Mudaf ilayh is majroor. We can say Allah's messenger. How do we say that? Rasulullahi. Rasulullahi. So mudaf, you can see it doesn't take the meaning, it doesn't take lam of definiteness either. So the book of Allah, or Allah's book, the book of Allah, and that will be Kitabullahi. Kitabullahi. Allah's help, which we always need, Allah's help, and that will be Nasrullahi. So mudaf ilayh is always majroor. We can say, we can bring an indefinite mudaf ilayh now. So let's say a cow's milk. A cow, not a definite cow, special cow. A cow's milk. So we can translate that as labanu. That's our vocabulary as well. Labanu bakarin. So here bakarin is indefinite. This is mudaf ilayh, which is majroor. So here is labanu, although it's not labanun because mudaf is not going to take the mean. Labanu is indefinite here because it is mudaf towards indefinite noun. So labanu bakarin, a cow's milk. We can say meat of a goat, the meat of a goat, or meat of a goat, of a goat, indefinite again, meat of a goat. We can translate that as lahmu shatin, lahmu meat, shatin a goat. So indefinite. So here lahm is indefinite, laban is indefinite because mudaf ilayh is indefinite in these examples. We can translate the desire of knowledge, L-E, correct spellings. Okay, the desire of knowledge, that will be talabul ilmi, talabul ilmi, the desire or seeking of knowledge, talabul ilmi. So these are few examples of murakkab azafi. Mudaf, mudaf ilayh. So mudaf never takes the mean and never takes lam of definiteness, and mudaf ilayh is always in state of jar. So mudaf ilayh is always majroor. So our majroorat are only two. We have many nouns which will be marfu or mansubat, are quite a long list, but majroorat are only two. Majroorat. The noun which follows harf jar, that's number one. Following harf jar, that ism will be majroor. and mudaf ilayh will always be majroor. So only two nouns which will be in state of jar in any kind of writing or a sentence or an ayah. Mudaf ilayh. So ism majroor in murakkab jari and mudaf ilayh mudaf ilayh. So two majroorat we have. Now what we can do is we are now going to do our Bismillah before we call it a day. So let's analyze Bismillah. Let me write down here. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And when we stop here, we just say Rahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So how do we analyze that? So I'm sure you have already picked up. We have got a ba, which is harf jar here, ba, and that's our harf jar. Jar. And ism is normally written like ismun. Here we want to say Allah's name. So Allah's name will be murakkab idafi, Allah's name. So we have our vocabulary which is ism and Allah. So ism will be mudaf, ism, or Allahi. Lafz jalala will be mudaf ilayh here, ismullahi, Allah's name. Now if we add harf jar here, so what's going to happen? Harf jar is going to, and if you remember the hamza of ism we said is hamzatul wasl, if you remember that. Hamza of imra'atun was hamzatul wasl, ism was hamzatul wasl as well, and hamza of al of definiteness, that is also hamzatul wasl. So which means when it is combined with something before it, it remains in the writing but not pronounced. So if we bring ba before this, so we can add ba here, and this is going to go, it's not going to be pronounced, so it will become bis. It should be Bismillah, but it's going to be bis because it's hamzatul wasl. It will be bis. It can't be normullahi. This is harf jar, and this ism has to be majroor. So here is an example that mudaf can take any of the i'rab. It could be marfu, it could be mansub, it could be majroor, and here it's going to be majroor Bismillah. Okay. So here if we see ism is in jar because of harf majroor, ism majroor, and at the same time it is mudaf, and lafz jalala is in jar because it's mudaf ilayh. Mudaf ilayh. So mudaf, ism is in jar because of harf jar, is in jar because of harf jar, which is ba, and this is mudaf here, and because when we have mudaf we are going to have mudaf ilayh, so lafz jalala is majroor because of being in the position of mudaf ilayh. So ism and Allah are both majroor here, one because of being mudaf ilayh and other because of the effect of this harf jar. So our analysis will be, that will be harf jar, and this is mudaf and mudaf ilayh combine to make ism majroor, and jar and majroor will combine to make murakkab jari. So in this murakkab jari we have murakkab idafi as well in it. So end of the day it is murakkab jari, but in it there is murakkab idafi, and the whole of murakkab idafi has gone into jar to become ism majroor. So where does this alif goes? This is specific to Bismillah. At other places where ism is used, even in Quran, alif is remained in writing although not pronounced, but in Bismillah it drops in writing as well, and usually it is written like this, a little bit longer, like that, Bismillahi. So alif is dropped in writing as well, and that is specific to Bismillah, not to an ism at another place when it is used even in Quran. So Bismillahi, so we've got harf jar, we have ism majroor, and we have mudaf and mudaf ilayh, and then the whole construction is murakkab jari. So what about Rahman and Rahim? Why are they in state of jar here? Rahman is in state of jar, Rahim is in state of jar as well. They are in state of jar because they both belong to Allah in a way that they both become sifa of Allah. So this is sifa number 1, sifa 1, and this is sifa 2, sifa 2. So both these sifat, their mawsoof is Allah. Because mawsoof is in jar, sifa number 1 is in jar, sifa number 2 is in jar as well, and mawsoof with its 2 sifas becomes in this construction mudaf ilayh. Mudaf ilayh, and this is mudaf ilayh, and ism is mudaf. Mudaf and mudaf ilayh become murakkab izafi, murakkab izafi, and this murakkab izafi here is, we have got harf jar here, and this murakkab izafi is ism majroor, and jar and majroor combine to form murakkab jari. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is a phrase, it's not a sentence. So what we are saying is Ba means with, ism name, ism of Allah, so with the name of Allah. And actually in English, if we translate this whole thing as a sifa mawsoof, so that translation will really be that with the Rahman and Rahim, Allah's name. Or another way of saying in English will be from the translation point of view, with the name of Allah who is Rahman and Rahim, but they remain sifa. In whatever way we translate that, they remain Allah's sifa. So this is not a sentence, it is a phrase. So whole of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is phrase, it's not a sentence. But usually it is translated as a sentence because translations will be, I begin with the name of Allah who is compassionate and merciful, these kind of translations. So I begin, so where that I begin has come from, quite often in some translations they will write in brackets I begin with the name of, Allah, who is compassionate and merciful. So with the name of Allah, who is, that's just the translation, who is compassionate and merciful, whichever way you want to say it, merciful and compassionate, or compassionate and merciful. One day we will go into Rahman and Rahim, because their madda is Rahamim, so there's a difference there, with a similar meaning. So compassionate, merciful, or merciful and compassionate. So this is not a sentence, it is a phrase. So whatever work we do, we say I'm going to eat, so that I say here I'm going to eat with the name of Allah, I'm going to write with the name of Allah, I'm going to ride with the name of Allah, so I'm going on a journey with the name of Allah. So that I'm going to do this and this and this and this, that is omitted here because it's a very frequent use anyway. Or one can say, some people say there is fail which is mahzoof here, which means dropped, mahzoof, which means dropped. So fail like ashra'u, I begin, ashra'u Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rather than saying ashra'u, I begin, or we can say arkabu, I write. So arkabu Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So whatever we want to say. Others say, oh, there is a kind of noun missing here, noun is dropped. So they say ibtada, the beginning from mubtada, ibtada'i, tada'i, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, my beginning with the name of Allah, who is Rahman and Rahim. So that is our analysis of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which you will remember that this is a phrase, and end of the analysis will be this murakkab jari, in which we have murakkab tawsifi as well as murakkab idafi, and this murakkab jari has murakkab idafi and murakkab tawsifi in it. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.